Today's episode, I just wanted to get some of y'all's background and see how you two met, projects you're working on.
Yeah, and just so you don't know, like Dan looks like he's in the same room with us, but he's not. He's halfway across the United States with us, and it's a miracle of technology that Dan is here. So if I get my direction, if I look like this, I'm not actually looking at Dan. He's not sitting there, right? So, so
and I just have to look forward, so it's great. This is
it's
awesome
real easy,
technology.
right? But I'm technically I'm sitting on that side of the room, but when I look at myself, I'm on that side, so it's a little confusing, right? And then you're not even here, so
Yeah.
So
No, this is great, guys. I think this is going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot of live broadcasts going forward with everything that we got going on, right?
lots of information that I think the public, between what we do and the things that we have coming, it's super exciting what we have to share with people. And I think you're as excited as I am to share all this information. I mean, you and I talk all the time about all this stuff, and it's nice to get it out into the public and let them hear what our plans are and what we're doing. So like I said, maybe we ought to start off with how this whole thing came together. So,
well, I think if I remember, Justin, I was putting out some videos on my channel about real estate.
Yep.
And you had this sweet little project going on at Texas A&M, and a partner who didn't want to stay in for the long haul, and you called me up.
Yeah, short-term sighted person, and I called you up, and we got talking and it just turns out that we shared a lot of values and ideas of money and planning, and it was refreshing to see someone look at something from the long-term aspect of it, just like we do right now in Bitcoin, right? I think there's a lot of like parallels between where our minds were as far as an asset and not being short-sighted.
Oh, 100%. And then you had this great project going. So basically what we did is we ended up building a student housing complex at Texas A&M called the Mods. And we're going to get our first students in there. When do you think?
Yeah,
September, October?
Yes, August, mid to late August. So, that's this guy here. So my oldest son here, he was really kind of the one when we were hunting for a place for him to stay. I was getting frustrated. I was standing in the middle of the parking lot, frustrated why there was no parking. And I was like, well, why is there no parking? I said, wait a minute. That's a good problem that there's no parking. There's no vacancy here. let me look at this a little closer right here, and then analyze the market, and came across a really unique, great opportunity. And those guys didn't want to partake. I came across some of your videos. I was like, man, I really like what Dan's talking about. I reached out, and we just kind of grew the relationship from there and decided to do it together. And now we're kind of, I would say, taking the next step of what that relationship has become and grown to. And that's really exciting, because that one we're going to be able to share with the public.
Yeah, that one's a fun one. And if you're a Texas A&Mer, you want to live there. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a beautiful place to live. And I'm sure Emerson would love to live there again if he was going backwards.
Aggie Land was an amazing place for the previous 4 years of my schooling.
Yeah. And you lived close to it. You didn't ever, I mean, it wasn't finished in time for you to take advantage of it. But every time, he was kind of like my test, being able to see the places that he rented, and
the Mods is definitely the most beautiful place out of anything I could have lived in
Yeah. Yeah. So
well, then as real estate guys, we know that the whole key to any kind of real estate is your rents and your cash flow, and that creates appreciation and value. And so as we started building this thing out, obviously we're thinking, well, what everything from can you charge a tenant or a student in this case? How does that cash flow? When can it appreciate to a point where we could refinance it and pull some cash out? Anyway, all these conversations are going on simultaneous. And then Justin says, hey, you know what? I've been doing this Bitcoin mining thing for a while. We should probably dig a little deeper into that.
Yeah, it really kind of got me started in that is, I told you, I said, I feel confident now with, this is probably just over a year ago, probably November 2023, when I felt like it was okay to come out of the, let the world know that my tinfoil hat and doing this Bitcoin thing, as a Bitcoiner, you're versus the traditional financial world, it's always a little hesitant to go, hey, I mine Bitcoin, right? People look at you weird. But as I saw those public ETFs look like they were actually going to get accepted. And when I saw that BlackRock filed for theirs, in the parallel to that was in student housing, when we go to a student housing conference, BlackRock is one of the largest student housing operators in the United States. So they're in the room at the student housing conference, right? So I've been always kind of like following BlackRock. What are the moves that they're making in this space? But I happen to also follow them because they were the ones filing this Bitcoin ETF. So paying attention to them like in both spheres right there, right? So that's when I seen when they filed for that ETF, I was like, man, they wouldn't have filed for it. BlackRock wouldn't have filed for it if they didn't think they could get it done. And that's where I said, there's something to this run right here. Uh-huh. So that's when I came out and said, hey, have you ever seen Michael Saylor? And he's got this pretty interesting strategy. What if we applied that strategy to a student housing development?
Oh, man. And I'll tell you, so I've always, I kind of came from traditional financial planning back in the 80s. But it was after the 90s where I thought, I got to do something different. So I've been kind of veering away from traditional, just buy a 401k, invest in a mutual fund. And so real estate and all the different types of investments has always intrigued me. So when you brought that up, I'd been trading crypto using a trading bot,
right,
and had been doing pretty good,
right,
but I never really thought about hanging on to it.
Yeah.
And then as we started talking and I started going down the rabbit hole, obviously you had already been down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's a big rabbit hole.
Keeps on going. It just got more and more exciting and more fun to learn about. And yeah, Michael Saylor certainly has a lead on most investment groups out there. And but once I kind of thought, this could work. As you guys know, one of the first things we do with our clients is leverage life insurance. And so having a bunch of clients with cash value and looking for a place for it to deploy, we always want to be as safe, but also as productive as we can with those dollars. And then here we go. We start saying, well, look, we don't want to manage money. We don't want to build a fund.
Right.
And then coming up with this idea, hey, let's build mining companies for investors.
Right, exactly. I think at the basis of it, people, it's one step to go invest in Bitcoin and go down that rabbit hole, right? But I think people don't really grasp that idea of what Bitcoin mining is and how you can take that and generate income with it, right? So everyone understands like investing in something and just the value of something going up, but Bitcoin mining gives you this other thing, this other tool, which is income generation. And that's a different tool that you can play with that other traditional things like real estate give you, but not at this power, right? And then combining that with a business or a real estate investment. And I think that's what's really exciting of trying to, teach the guys that we've helped start Bitcoin mining companies, like, look, this is the real power of it. What if you combine this with that other thing that you do? That's where the excitement comes from.
Oh, for sure. And you're right. I mean, real estate investors, first rule of thumb is cash flow, right?
Right.
And Bitcoin potentially being the greatest asset that someone can own in the
Right.
next 100 years, and it's certainly been the most profitable asset to own since 2013 at least. But the fact is, holding it is great. There's going to be some amazing appreciation, but if you can not only hold it but create a way to generate cash flow from it,
Right.
now we've put two things together that are just huge.
And I think that's where, like, there's a good crossover between real estate investors that they understand owning the asset, looking for a cash flow asset right there, but they haven't ever looked at Bitcoin from that standpoint, because Bitcoin is a technology. It's not just a financial tool, it's a technology. And I kind of relate it to people like this, that, how long did that VCR sit on top of most people's TV and blink 12 o'clock? Right?
Yeah.
You just wanted the function of it, right? People just wanted to watch a movie, so they put the movie in, but they never took the time to get out the manual, understand it, and go, okay, I'm going to set the clock. Because think about that for a second. If you were to do that, the added benefit that you could program, hey, well, maybe I'm not going to be home for the news tonight, but I could record it and watch it later. That technology would give you benefit into your life from the technology, but most people didn't use it like that. Bitcoin's kind of the same thing it's a technology. And if you don't really understand how the technology part works, you're just looking for the lift in the asset. But there's so much more to it in mining, especially adding it to a real estate asset like that. And the way that I, as a real estate developer, try to communicate that to people is, how do you value a piece of real estate? It's the cap rate. A commercial piece of real estate would be the cap rate, right? And what is that? That's income versus the debt, right? Well,
Right.
How do you increase the income side? Is you're limited in how much rent you can charge within the market. But what if the real estate asset had another way to generate income? Well, and then that way that it generates income is the most powerful asset in the planet, right?
Yeah.
Well, now you have the most profitable real estate asset on the planet, right? Just by combining those two together. And the reason why people don't do it is because of the technology. They don't want to set the clock, right? But that's where we come in and say, well, wait a minute. What if someone can help you set the clock on the VCR?
Set the clock, put in the tape, hit record,
right,
set
and
the
enjoy the
timer.
benefit. Yeah,
we literally can do it all.
right.
And I
Right,
love the fact that when you look at using what we're doing with Bitcoin mining with any business or real estate, and adding that as a side hustle, so to speak,
yeah.
suddenly that side hustle might outperform your main hustle
Yeah,
in the long run.
Yeah, and that's the model that, really I've been in, when I felt comfortable, like, hey guys, I got this tinfoil hat, I do Bitcoin, you can tell the world about it. And then you start looking at what Michael Saylor did. That's where I kind of like said, look, he was a software company that bought some Bitcoin in 2020. That's not that long ago. Like, everyone remembers going home in the pandemic. That to me sounds like it's like yesterday. I mean, it's not that long ago, right? To transform a publicly traded company from a software company that bought some Bitcoin to a Bitcoin treasury company that dabbles in some software.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what he's done. And I'm like, you can do that with a real estate asset. You can do that with a donut shop. You could do that with, your accounting firm. You could do that, with your law practice. You could do that anywhere, right? You can start it now, and in 4 years, you could be that law firm that dabbled in some Bitcoin mining, and you might be a Bitcoin mining company that dabbles in some law. Right. and that's the power of this, right? When you use the true power of the most profitable asset on the planet.
No, it's really exciting. Well, let's lay out what we think we're going to be doing on these live broadcasts. We're going to try to do them fairly regularly, and we'll get to a point where we'll pick a date and time, and it'll be just you can set your watch to it, hopefully.
Yeah.
The nice part about technology is any one of us could be anywhere in the world and still join the broadcast.
Exactly.
So that's kind of nice.
And it looks like you're right here. I can't poke you.
Right.
but we're here. Okay. So I'll throw my kind of 2 cents in, because I'm the technical aspect of Bitcoin. I feel like I could help shed some light on not just the asset itself, but the technology behind the asset, which helps people understand where Bitcoin derives its value. And I think if people really understand the Bitcoin story and the number, like we have this in our training, everyone starts off as a Bitcoin denier, and their number one fear is, can Bitcoin go to zero, right? That's where everyone starts. But at the end of that spectrum, you'll realize, well, wait a minute, it's the dollar going to zero to Bitcoin. And how do you position yourself for that? And that's going to seem extremely foreign to someone that has not dabbled in Bitcoin. But if we can help them along the journey, that's where they'll understand, like, what is the impact of inflation? What is a deflationary money look like, right? And how they measure price in Bitcoin with dollars.
And I think that's awesome, because one thing that I try to tell everybody I meet is it's not my job, nor do I have the talent or ability to convince you that Bitcoin is amazing. But there are some smart people, you guys being two of them, that can help people down that rabbit hole to see it for what it really is. And then once they're comfortable and they want to dive in, then we can certainly take them to that next level. But if they're going to be, a Dave Ramsey and just never even go down the rabbit hole and just put on the blinders, they're going to be just left behind. I mean, it's just, it's sad, but I tell people all the time, look, I don't care if you like it or hate it. You need to at least understand what's going on in the world out there, because it is a big wave, a tidal wave coming that's literally changing the whole economic environment. So you might as well at least learn about it, even if you don't ever want to get or participate with it.
Yeah, this is what I've been trying to tell people recently is I don't like to really introduce, politics into things, because it's too polarizing. But when we have a president now that is going to go down as the first Bitcoin president, right? And one of the things that the United States is talking about doing is making a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And that in the Bitcoin community, that thing has been thrown around, very, very common. But to the non-Bitcoiner, someone that has not adopted Bitcoin yet, what I would like to call to their attention is those very specific words. Really pay attention to those words. Strategic Bitcoin reserve. Why the word strategy? What would you need a strategy for? You would need a strategy to defend yourself against something, right? And if the United States feels like that it may need to implement some strategy to defend itself from something, what would that be? The strategy to defend the dollar, right? So if the United States feels like it might need some strategy to defend the dollar, shouldn't you internalize that to yourself and say, wait a minute, maybe I should learn about this. Maybe I need a strategy to defend myself against attacks on the dollar, right? And so those are the things that I was like, well, just in the environment, if you see the president come on and say, hey, we're looking at a sovereign wealth fund and we may add Bitcoin to it. Well, why would we do that? Well, we would add the Bitcoin in a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Well, what would we reserve? Well, we reserve oil, we reserve gold. We have all kinds of reserves of commodities. And so that's what as we do these things, I want to look at it from the standpoint of someone that has never encountered the asset before and just help them hear what's going on, because the world's changing. And so that I think that would be a useful thing to just pay attention to their new ears hearing Bitcoin, how to use this, because some of the concepts we're going to go are like really high, and then some need to be right in the middle. And then Dan, I think you have a great way of helping people transition from transitional into this vehicle that we're talking about.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you're exactly right, because if you look at the United States adopts this strategic reserve, I can't imagine that the states on the state level aren't going to, and then to a city level, and then you're going to see institutions and corporations. This thing, the trickle down effect could just make this thing explode. But you know,
Emerson,
last week, I was going to say, last week I went to Dallas and I was invited to the Sovereign Wealth Fund Institute event, and I was just blown away of who was there, talking about decentralization, the tokenization, Bitcoin. I'm just everything crypto. And the biggest surprise I had was seeing Franklin Templeton there. Now, for a lot of people who know Franklin Templeton, when I started as a stockbroker in the 80s, if you wanted safe, conservative, fixed assets, you just don't want to mess with the stock market.
Right.
You went to Franklin Templeton. These guys are the most conservative, fixed asset guys on the planet. Right. To have them at this digital asset conference with their digital asset team speaking at these events, I mean, it just showed me and told me, look, even the traditional financial firms are understanding that they've got to somehow get involved with crypto, and all of them to the T were just touting the fact that Bitcoin is certainly the asset to put your money in, and to that it's going to just, I don't want to even say numbers because it's ridiculous where some of these firms think Bitcoin's going, but let's just say higher.
Right. Yeah, much higher. Emerson, I saw the other day you posted on X that graphic of how many states are
it's more than half.
Yeah, more than half the states have some form of strategic Bitcoin reserve themselves as states.
Wow.
It's crazy. It seems like every week there's an orange
state.
Yeah, a new state that we're hearing about that is getting close. There's some of them that are real close. Like, I mean, some of the states, as far as like already implementing legislation that could be passed before the United States actually moves on it, I think will probably most likely happen.
And you guys obviously are down there in Texas, and one of the sponsors of this event was the Texas Blockchain Commission. Mm-hmm. So Texas is definitely involved heavily.
Bitcoin mining capital of the world.
There you go.
We have cheap power, right? And there's maybe one episode we can kind of dive into why that happens. But we have miners deployed into this state and Arkansas, and it's just in the South here with that's a good thing that we should cover in the future, of that stigmatism of people when they hear Bitcoin mining, they're like, don't those take a lot of electricity? And yes, they do. But Texas has figured out a way that can actually be healthy for the grid here locally. And so they incentivize it. And so that's why there's so many here.
That's awesome. Well, in a nutshell, guys, I mean, we're here to keep people educated. Obviously, in our next few live events, we want to make sure we're teaching people about how we do this, how we set up the corporations, how mining works. We'll get into a little bit more detail on the financial side, but this was just a good opportunity to break the ice, get the ball rolling. Yeah. And then just folks, just subscribe, stay tuned. We're going to just be as informative as we can for you, and
answer questions. It'll be a good resource for people to reach out and ask those technical questions. And to be honest, a safe space for non-coiners, Bitcoiners, and, you know, just people in crypto in general, because there's room in this asset for everyone, right? And if I worry as a Bitcoiner that we don't have enough, but I'm really worried that they don't have enough. Right. So, you know, the more helpful that we can be in someone's decision, and maybe they come across this and they go, what was that rabbit hole they were talking about? Or what was that thing? And they do a little bit of reaching it, you know, out and trying to get some information. And then they reach out and go, okay, maybe you can answer this question. And here's another venue to get answers, doing it live.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'll just tease you just a little bit. Justin and I and Emerson and Ethan, we go over numbers all the time. And I can just tell you, we've got something very exciting and very profitable.
Yes.
And so we'll share those numbers with you as we go along. And then drum roll, we've got an announcement we'll be probably making in a week or two.
Yes.
Of something even
bigger, even bigger.
Exciting and bigger.
Yeah.
So,
we got it like Bitcoin Plus and Bitcoin Plus Plus Plus.
So we got to tease you a little bit to come back.
A little bit.
So that's our teaser for wrapping this up. Anything else, Emerson, you want to throw out there?
I don't know. I mean, technically, I kind of want to be here for helping people, kind of my generation, pulling people closer to my age bracket and understanding how it can help them in their future. And part of what is coming up in the next couple of weeks, I think it can really change their lives for that demographic, from early starting college or school to when they're retiring. So I hope to bring some people in.
Yeah. I think that's a good point that he brings up, is that what we're trying to do is bridge that age demographic. And one of the things that, you know, that you're teasing there, Dan, is something that this asset has room for everyone. And what we mean by that is like generationally, right? So from that young guy that is like trying to figure out, how do I get ahead in this economy, in this world, to someone in our age group that is trying to protect their wealth, right? You've got someone trying to build it and someone trying to protect it, and everything in between right here. And I think that's a good, I look that way, and he's like, this is so weird. I might have to, next time we might have to put me back on the right side.
No, Emerson, I hear you. And I've told these young guys before, I envy them for being so young. They're going to see things that I could only dream of. But the next 30 to 50 years of crypto and tokenization and Bitcoin and the mining, all the things that we're involved with, is just going to just really change the world right before our eyes. And we're going to be riding the wave. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. Awesome.
So awesome, guys. Well, this was fun.
That was fun.
Let's get after it next time. And folks, like I say, subscribe, tune in, get ready. We're going to have a lot of good information for you over the next little